Hey birdies, and welcome back to Blonde Buzzard Books. Today we are going to be talking about every book I read or listened to in January of 2026. I'm going to try to keep it short, but I make no promises. We have I think 9 books to get through, so let's not waste any more time and hop right into it. I'm going to rank these from least liked to most liked. I know that you could rank them best to worst, but I also know that that's a little bit subjective. So just so I don't catch any hate from, all 10 of my subscribers, we're going to go with least liked to most liked. And ironically, the one that I liked the very least was the very first book that I interacted with this year. So we were off to a really good start. That book is going to be The Running Man by Stephen King. I picked this one up because I was trying to get my fiance into reading. We were going to be stuck together on a 12-hour drive to Colorado, and I thought, you know what? We should try an audiobook together. I think you would love it. I think it would be fun. I think it would be a good way to get you to read a little. So that's what I did. And I picked The Running Man. So that was just fully on me. Picked it because the movie was about to come out. Okay, who doesn't love Glenn Powell? He looks like a capybara, right? Nothing could possibly go wrong. Except for everything, because this book sucks. Here is a spoiler-free plot summary, just in case you want to read it. The main character, whose name I've already forgotten because I hate him, is very poor. He is impoverished in this dystopian world where a lot of people are impoverished. The reason that he specifically is impoverished, it seems, is because he has been fired from several jobs for insubordination. His wife is a sex worker, which, in case you were wondering, is not portrayed even remotely sensitively in the book, because why would it be? So he's unemployed, his wife is a sex worker. They have a daughter who is 18 months old and she has the flu. But because they don't have any money, they can't take her to the doctor, so her health is getting really serious really fast, and they're really afraid that she's not going to survive. So instead of just straightening up and flying right, finding a real job, he decides that he is going to risk it all by involving himself in one of the many game shows that the institution has to offer. These game shows are offered by this big corporation for a lot of money, but the catch is pretty much all of the game shows are torturous in some way or another. And they're all comically and absurdly torturous is the other thing. One of the examples of these games, I believe, is called Treadmill Questions, which, okay, creative name, where they put a fat person on a treadmill, a fat person or, an infirmed person, okay? They don't have to be fat. They could just be in bad health. Either way, they put them on a treadmill, and they make them run on the treadmill and answer questions, and every time they answer a question wrong, they turn the speed up on the treadmill until inevitably the person either falls off and seriously injures themselves, or sometimes has a heart attack and dies. Fun, girl! And allegedly people love this. People love to watch this. Right. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, for sure. When you go to apply for the games, you don't know what game you are going to be selected for. You just kind of go and they interview you and they do a physical and stuff, and then they decide what game they're going to put you in. During this interview process, after several displays on his part of violence that honestly seemed to come more from an internal sociopathy than any real political unrest, he is ultimately selected to be the Running Man, which is a game show where the person is hunted for 30 days by both civilians and officers alike, till death. Basically, you're hunted, and if you can survive the 30 days, then you get $1 billion. And if you don't, then oops, blah, blah, blah. What's gonna happen to him? Frankly, I don't care, okay? Because he's a jerk. We'll get there. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, my general thoughts on this are, well, it's bad. Okay, I don't think it's good. And I'll tell you why. This novel could technically, I guess, be considered a predecessor to franchises like The Hunger Games and Squid Game, things like that, kind of the dystopian, like, game show, how desperate are you to really save your family kind of thing. But literally any franchise that this could have possibly inspired, I guarantee surpasses it both in plot and substance. Okay, this book offers almost nothing to its readers. It's kind of impressive, actually. By the ending, which is kind of cool, I can't lie, the ending was kind of cool, the novel fails to make any real political statement. There's really nothing to be said about any of it other than rich people bad, which, yeah, we know. We know. It was already shaky on its legs, but it maybe could have been something if the main character was not entirely insufferable. I hate him. Aside from being violent and annoying for no reason, like he's a real edgelord, he's also, not surprisingly, racist and homophobic. Pretty much any ism or phobia you could possibly like stick in a book, Stephen King made sure to do it with this one. And you know what? I kind of didn't understand that criticism about Stephen King. I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, I get why people are complaining so much about this, because this novel is a really clear example of like, that was not necessary, and that actually really hurt your character that's supposed to be really sympathetic. So, anyway, that was super fun to read. Loved it. The next book is also an audiobook, and it's also one that I hated with a passion. This one is Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. I rated this 2 stars on Goodreads, and I'm gonna make a full video about this one, so I'm gonna keep it like real concise because we're gonna get real into the nitty-gritty of it very soon, probably in the next few days. I picked this one up because we were snowed in for the weekend. Okay, I was gonna be at home catching up on a lot of things that I haven't been able to do because I've been too busy. So I was like, I want a little audiobook that I can put in while I like cook and clean and organize things and do laundry and all that fun stuff. So I consulted Goodreads for a list of winter horror books, and Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates was the one on the list that sounded the most interesting to me. And that was a mistake on my part. I guess I really can't be mad because I did it to myself. But, wow. My spoiler-free plot summary is Krista, which is spelled like Christ A. Don't piss me off. Be serious. And her boyfriend Kiernan are going up to the Rocky Mountains for 2 weeks with a tour group of 8 other people to stay at this nice fancy lodge that is isolated in the snow in the winter. But when their bus is delayed by a tree that's fallen in the road, it is quickly revealed that there is a killer in their midst who is going around murdering the members of the tour group. Spooky. Obviously, a whodunit mystery like this one relies on red herrings, twists and turns, and the big reveal at the end, which I guessed less than 10% of my listen through this book. Oh, that's not good. Pretty much after I had made my guess, I was pretty sure I was right, but I finished reading it just to make sure that I was correct, and I was. But that really was pretty much my only motivation as this book dragged on. It just fell really, really flat for me. Like I said, I'm going to make a full video, so I'll talk about it more. But, yeah, I was just super disappointed in this one. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. The third book on this list is Dreamcatcher by Stephen King. Oh my gosh, yay! We get to talk about the butt aliens again. Yeah, we have to. I'm sorry. I don't want to do it either, okay? I'm sorry. So after my review of The Running Man, you may be thinking to yourself, why on God's green earth did you choose to read another Stephen King fresh off the heels of that garbage? And the answer is, I didn't, okay? I didn't. I picked this one up off of the shelves of this lovely, lovely used bookstore that my family owns, literally like 2 years ago. I was like, ooh, it's Stephen King. I've never even heard of this title. Like, I'm just going to pick it up and I'll get to it when I get to it. Okay, and then it sat on my shelf for a really long time. And then we were going on vacation and I neglected to look for a book at the store before we left. So I was packing last minute and I was like, I need a winter horror book. I'm very big, in case you haven't figured it out yet, I'm very big on reading something that's like seasonally appropriate. Like, I love a seasonally appropriate read. So I was just digging around, kind of panicking. Found this. I was like, ooh, there's snow and deer on the cover. Yummy. Let's do that. Okay, I'm not even going to lie to you. The summary that I'm about to give you is going to contain mild spoilers, but there's so much happening in this book that it's not going to taint your reading experience if you choose to read it. So, to pare it down to its core, the novel follows 4 childhood friends who go hunting once a year, every year, in the Jefferson Tract, which is a remote, woodsy area of Maine. In the middle of their trip, a strange man appears at their cabin asking for help. He's clearly sick and confused, so they offer him help and assistance despite his rancid-smelling farts. I'm not kidding. That is a huge plot point, is that his farts smell really bad. Like, way worse than, like, a normal person's farts. Yeah. Do I look like I'm kidding right now? Do I? Come to find out, the man has an alien parasite inside of him. It later crawls out of his butt, and all hell breaks loose. Very Stephen King. I was so excited about this novel because I picked it up hoping for zombies, to be honest. I was hoping that the strange man that appeared at their cabin was a zombie, and this was going to be the beginning of the zombie outbreak. So imagine my surprise and my shock when it's an alien in his butt. A butt alien that makes you fart real bad. Whatever. Whatever. So while I did love the characters, the novel is too long. Okay? It's like 600 pages. And I usually don't complain about Stephen King novels being too long. And I actually typically really dislike and don't trust when reviewers say that his novels are too long because I know that he goes on a lot of weird little tangents. Okay? But I think that's part of what makes his characters so compelling. To me, Stephen King's characters feel more human and more real than almost any other writer's characters, and I think that's partly because of those weird tangents he goes on. You know what? I kind of do want to know why that side character is traumatized from that picnic that they went on when they were 8 years old, because it helps me understand them and it helps me conceptualize them as a real person. That being said, this novel was too long because there are too many plot points going on, and I care about none of them. The plot needed to be culled, and the longer and longer it went on, the less I cared about how any of the plot points wrapped up, if they did at all. The next one has potential for controversy, okay? My next least favorite read was The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I heard a lot of really good things about this one. This one came to me via TikTok recommendation. It was one of those, like, weird girl horror that weird girls will love. So, of course, I picked it up because I'm a weird girl and I love horror. And, yeah, I don't know. The book follows Margot, an isolated little girl who lives in the woods with her mom, who she calls Mama. And they live pretty uniquely because they actually entrap and kill tourists and hikers and travelers who get lost in the woods by their house. After they kill them, they eat them, and that is almost all that they eat. They call these people strays and see them as subhuman. They're lesser than. They are different, and they will never understand Mama and Margot and their plights in life. But one day, a stray shows up named Eden, and after she's been brought into the house and they're about to do the whole song and dance of killing her, Mama decides that maybe Eden's different and maybe she should keep her. So, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this book read to me very like, every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter, so we all dressed up as wolves and we look fire. You know? Like, it's very cannibalism as a metaphor for love, and that, I think, is a great premise. Hannibal is like one of my favorite shows ever, okay? But I think you have to add something new to the conversation if you're going to do that. In other words, it was very pseudo-poetic. I think it, like, lacks a lot of the profundity that it seeks. It hopes to be something that's really poetic and impactful, and I just didn't think it was that necessarily. I think the problem is that the characters are not very fleshed out, and it's kind of hard to tell what their motivations are, if they have any. So you just don't really feel very compelled by their situations. And I think because of that, it's kind of unclear what metaphors and what points the novel is trying to make, if that makes sense. Aside from that, the plot was interesting. I was wanted to know what happened when I was reading it. I was entertained. I wanted to keep going. And also, I think there's a lot of merit in Lucy Rose's writing style. I hope to see more from her later that is maybe a little bit more fleshed out, because I did really enjoy the pacing of the novel. I thought that we get these like really short chapters that almost make it feel like, paired with her word choice and kind of her diction and sentence structure, really make it feel like we're almost fading in and out of consciousness, if that makes sense, which is really fun. The way that Margot's perspective is, because she's grown up with this her whole life, it makes these really horrific things seem really mundane and almost like diary entries. And it's really interesting. It does feel like you're really in the throes of this traumatic and confusing upbringing with Margot. So that is cool and interesting. I rated it 3 stars because I thought it was good, but I just wish it had been a little more fleshed out. I think that there could have been more in general. The next book on this list is The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. I listened to this one because my mom and everyone else on the planet insisted that it was really, really, really good, and that they freaking loved it, and it was like the craziest plot twist they had ever heard, and, you know, blah, 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 this, that, and the third. The movie's about to come out, and I thought, you know what? Why not? So, in case you've somehow missed what the plot could possibly be, ex-convict Millie is living in her car and is desperate for employment. As a long shot, she applies for a housekeeping job with the Winchesters, a very wealthy and well-known family in New York. The family consists of the mother, Nina, who's kind, funny, and outgoing, the husband, Andrew, who is very suave and, he's a suave and sexy tech exec who is an amazing father and husband, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. He's perfect. And then their daughter, Cece, who is admittedly kind of creepy. Millie's a little creeped out by her. As she gets the job and she moves in with the family and really, becomes part of the family, she discovers that they are not exactly what they seem, particularly Nina. Okay, people who rate this book low stars are haters. Stop expecting literary masterpieces from commercial fiction and enjoy the story you were given, okay? I was promised an entertaining, easy read with twists and turns, and that is what I got, okay? And it was great. I had so much fun with this book. I thought it was great. Did I expect this book to be impactful or life-changing by any stretch of the imagination? No! But it was fun, okay? And that is really all that's required of me to give a good rating for a book. If you promise something, you have to deliver it, which that's also kind of my gripe with The Lamb. Come to think of it, is The Lamb promised something that's profound and poetic, and it wasn't really that, which is why it got a lower rating, because Freida McFadden is not promising me a literary masterpiece. She's promising me an entertaining story, and that's what she gave me. So, thank you, Freida. Okay, we are finally into 5-star territory, y'all. The first 5-star book that I read this month was Child of God by Cormac McCarthy. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, she's little. She's like 200 pages, and it packs a punch. Oh man. I picked this one up because I read No Country for Old Men, and I adored it. I was really enthralled with the way that Cormac McCarthy writes dialogue, and I know a lot of people gripe about the way he writes dialogue, actually, but I feel like it's really realistic. I think he writes in a way that makes exposition in a novel not feel like exposition. Does that make sense? He writes things in a way that make you feel as if you have been there with the characters your whole life. You are a person in their small town, watching them go about their lives. You know what I mean? Which is just a really cool feature of his writing. So when I heard that No Country for Old Men was like the tamest book in his repertoire, I had to find out more. So I picked this one up at the bookstore on vacation. I should have dropped Dreamcatcher to just start this one, but I didn't. I don't feel like the blurb on the back of this book does a very good job at selling it at all. This is a 200-page character study about a man named Lester. He's not well liked in his small Tennessee town, and things only get worse when he loses his property and shortly thereafter is falsely accused of assaulting a woman. Readers get to watch in real time as he descends into madness and loneliness and depravity. At the same time, the novel holds a mirror to the readers, calling into question their sympathies for the people around them. I loved this book. I read it all in one sitting. Pretty much any other review that you could read or watch would more eloquently describe the masterful craft of the themes and feelings that this book gives you. So I am not even going to try. What I'm just going to tell you is you need to pick this up. It is a masterclass in literary horror. I am obsessed with it. My next 5-star read is The Troop by Nick Cutter. I made a video fully reviewing this one, so again, I'm going to try and keep this one really short. We ordered this book for the store, and as I was putting it in the computer system, I was immediately hooked by the blurb. It sounded, admittedly, a lot like Dreamcatcher by Stephen King, but I picked it up because I was again hoping for zombies. I really wanted a zombie novel, okay? And I didn't get it, but I got something totally different and maybe better. So this book follows Boy Scout Troop 52, which is comprised of 6 14-year-old boys and their scoutmaster Tim. They take their yearly trip to a remote island. Do you see the similarities between Dreamcatcher and this yet? When suddenly an interloper appears in their midst. He is strangely acting, extremely hungry, disoriented, and sick. And of course, upon his arrival, all hell breaks loose. As I mentioned, I made a much more in-depth video on this novel if you are interested in really getting into the nitty-gritty of it with me. So I don't want to repeat myself too much. What I will say is this novel delivers way, way, way more than it promises in the blurb. It has so many fun plot layers and so many interesting characters. I loved reading this every second. So super entertaining. I loved it. Thought it was great. The last read, and probably the one that I would rank the very highest out of all of these, is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Oh, wow. Wow. There is a lot going on here. My best friend has read this book so many times, so when it came through the store used, I snatched it before it even made it to the shelf. Honestly, more to read as a bonding experience with her than anything else. Like, I knew she thought it was really good. If she thought it was really good, I'm sure I'll think it was really good, and we'll have something to talk about, and that'll be fun. So I took it home, and I put it on my shelf, and I told her I put it on my shelf, and she told me that it was devastatingly, horrifyingly sad. So then I was like, maybe I won't read that right now. Blood, guts, and gore, not an issue for me, girl. Emotionally complex characters, though, ooh, I don't know about that. So yeah, I let it sit on my shelf for a really long time, but I decided towards the end of this month that it was just like dreary January and I was in the mood for some melodrama. So I picked it up and I read it. This novel is a long character study following the situationship from hell between Connell and Marianne. Marianne comes from a wealthy family. Connell's mom is Marianne's family's housekeeper. Connell is wildly popular at school. Marianne is not and has virtually no friends. Marianne speaks very freely about her feelings, and Connell has a real tendency to clam up. Essentially, it's never going to work. But they're going to keep trying anyway. Truthfully, the only person that I should share my unfiltered thoughts about Normal People with is a licensed therapist. I cannot make a video about Normal People because no, we're not doing that. We're not talking about my feelings about Normal People, okay? The characters are so well personified and you get so deeply personal with them that it kind of feels like you can't talk about the book without revealing something raw and deeply personal about yourself. And maybe that's the point. Sally Rooney, if you're watching this, you're a genius and I deserve financial compensation. So yeah, that is all of my reads for January of 2026. I suppose we'll have an honorable mention category because I did start this one in January and I am working my way through it right now. I'm hoping to get it finished today because I only have... Okay, I lied. I'm like halfway through. So I don't know about today, but we'll get it done. This is The Bog Wife by Kay Chronister, I believe is how you say the last name. I am loving this one so far. I think it's so good. I might make a whole video about it depending on how it ends. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, that is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I know that this one was a little bit longer than the last one, but I hope it was entertaining and worth it. Let me know if you have read any of these books in the comments and what you thought about them. Okay, bye!